of amen. Oh, cry, cry for my Netherine. Long ago. What a freaking banger, man. Welcome to my first ever YouTube video! As you can tell, I'm very musically talented. My name is Carolina. Some of you might know me from the Discord server. I've been around the Treehouse, which is my OG gang. See y'all. Malkier Talks, this channel, Lesbian Nerdy, Dusty Wheel. This channel will start off definitely as a Wheel of Time channel, and then I hope to kind of expand from there. A little bit about me before we kind of get into it, because I do want this episode, even though it's an introduction a little bit, I do want to just dive right into episode 1 of the Wheel of Time new show that just came out, because I've got a lot of thoughts.
Too much.
I'm a filmmaker, I live in London, I've been a storyteller, you know, I hate to say most of my life because it's ridiculous, but you know, I've always loved writing. I've always loved finding stories, even in places where you don't expect to. Yeah, so this channel will be about books, movies, TV shows, poetry, music, any kind of art form that tells stories. Even not art form? Is there any not art form that tells stories? That's an interesting, very philosophical question that I'm not going to answer right now. So let's just jump right in. Episode 1, Wheel of Time. Holy...
3 hours later.
Okay, episode 1 of the Wheel of Time. My thoughts are as follows. Panicking. The things I love, which are a lot of things.
The limit does not exist.
I like the suspenders. Moraine suspenders? The suspenders that Moraine has? If it isn't clear from my tone, I'm bisexual. Ha! Gay! The next thing I really loved is just the characters. The casting directors have done a great job of finding people that just have that energy within them. And I can tell especially that that's true after watching it a few times, and also after kind of seeing the interviews we got in the blue carpet with the actors themselves, where they kind of, Zoe Robbins being a specific one, that says she really drew from her own experience and kind of connected herself to the character. And she, I think, is definitely one of the best of all of the people cast.
I love her. I love her.
The next person I really loved was Matt. But Matt's backstory, I've heard a lot of different opinions on it. He isn't going to be the Matt that we thought, because he's going to be way more fleshed out. My boy is going through some real stuff. And handling it in a way that it's clear it's been happening most of his life, if not all of his life. And I love that because he is in a family where there's these clear narcissists.
Dude, those guys are dicks!
Need to do a real deep dive psychologically to figure out exactly what issues his parents have. But the one thing that is true about living with narcissists like he is, you have to balance every situation. You have to read the room constantly. And what I love about this backstory is it kind of creates an avenue for the writers to make him quite a intuitive person. He's always noticing and reading rooms when it comes to Rand and his sadness over Egwene, when in later episodes with Perrin. And that is, I mean, those are my favorite type of people. I mean, the people that have that are so strong and such the most beautiful people that I've met. And so seeing one in a TV show, outside of Wheel of Time, just in general, it's both beautiful and heartbreaking. Because if somebody is always so aware of other people, it means that they have very little time to actually care for themselves. I like the traditions of this Two Rivers, that they've kind of upped a bit. And this is one of them. Like, the idea of having grief and celebration, that's such a beautiful and healthy way to process grief and to also remember those that we've lost and those that we love. And I just love that whole ceremony anyways. But my favorite moment in it is one that if you blink, you miss it, with Nynaeve. It's really dark, and genuinely, the first time I watched it, I didn't actually see it. It's followed by a really intense moment between Egwene and Moraine that kind of almost makes you forget what you've just seen. Which is Nynaeve putting her lantern into the water and wiping tears. When you have deep loss, I'm sure many of you can relate to this, when you have something that's as personal as grief, you often have to find ways to hide that grief, especially from a young age like Nynaeve. Find coping mechanisms, and for her it's anger. Her anger, it covers up her deep love for those that she cares about, and is why she's so protective of other people. And this beautiful moment when she's just crying, putting the lantern, and she's totally alone, she made sure that she wasn't around anyone else because she doesn't want anyone to see her weakness, because for her, she thinks it's a weakness. And it's just a great place to start with her character, because it's a great place to arc from. Really shows these writers give a lot of crap about what these characters are going through, and are going to do an excellent job of giving us these small moments that make them feel like our own friends, and like they are us. Random thing I loved is how tall all the women are. Another thing I love is the dance between Lan and Moiraine. Yes, in the fight scene, of course, in the Winter's Night battle. But even in the dialogue, like there's that moment when she's like, you think there's Nihilus nearby or something, and then he doesn't say anything, just moves his head one way or the other. And the amount of time that it takes for her to realize, yes, he does think that there is a fade nearby, or at least there's something in the air. It's the same pacing as if he had actually said that out loud, which I think is really cool. Days Conger, my girl. I mean, this woman. But this actor just went off. I am just loving it. Like, beginning of a sequence where she has clearly just spilled beer all over her face, probably like banging on the table and making a hilarious joke that I wish I heard. And I just was like, that's one woman. Which I just think is hilarious, because like in no one's mind did anyone think Days Conger was going to be the freaking light of my life, or the light of the show's life. Which maybe she's not. Maybe it's just me that's just like... Okay, so that's almost all of my things I love. Now I'm just going to list off a few things. Lan's butt. No cap. Moiraine with her hair loose in a bath. I'm like severely bisexual. Moiraine walking. Moiraine breathing. Moiraine in a window. Moiraine laughing at Matt's joke. Moiraine existing. Moiraine pulling a freaking sword out of her body. Moiraine. When she pulled that sword out of her body, I lost all breath. Breath escaped me. And then, like, she just, like, because Lan's like, there's too many of them, and she's like, is there too many of them, or are you a wuss? Because, I am not done, girl. Like, yeah, I really like Moiraine. Now, those are the things I liked. And some of the things I loved. Alright. Now for the things I did not love.
This wheel of pain.
The first things I'll start with kind of a light did not love, which was the kind of the either Hallmark or CW vibes moments. The first one being the intro with the Aes Sedai chasing after the channeler, the male channeler. The lighting was weird. It looked like CSI Miami.
So our accident is not an accident at all.
I was overexposed and warm, whereas the rest of the show has been mostly green and blue, which I know is probably them trying to decipher landscapes, but tonally it just didn't work yet because we don't have the world down that well, so it just felt out of place. Plus, I kind of had this issue with the Aes Sedai clothing. I think them being always in their shawls is just a little bit too intense of a choice. Almost camp, which, yeah. I'm surprised I'm the one fucking saying this. Sorry. Because I love a bit of color. I honestly almost entirely have, despite the fact that I'm wearing all beige right now, most of my wardrobe is colorful. and ridiculous and camp. So you would think I would be okay with this whole color change thing. Maybe the more I see it, the more I'll kind of accept it as not being like a rainbow, like Roy G. Bibb sort of vibes. The other weird moments were kind of like when Egwene comes back from her women's ceremony, braiding.
Is anybody home?
You know what I mean. Yeah, you know what I mean. When she comes back and everyone stands up and claps. First of all, something about, maybe it was the sound designer, is actually how they acted, the actors in the room. But it just all sounds like, whoa, yay, oh my God. Honestly, it just needs a little bit more bass. Like, there needs to be more low voices. It just sounded too, like a Girl Scout meeting. I don't know. That's pretty harsh. I'm sorry, everybody. And then the last thing was Lan with his hood down when he walked in the frickin' wine spring inn with it, like, here. He can't frickin' see, man. And he can't see in his peripherals. He's got horse blinders on with that frickin' hood. And I know they're trying to probably do something with the whole merger all thing. But what the... He wouldn't do that, you know? Like, he would prioritize having a visual over any sort of dramatic entrance. And I think that's the problem I have with it, is that it's clear that he wants to make a dramatic entrance. And Lan would never want to make a dramatic entrance. So, I don't know. Those are my kind of lesser complaints, which I know I just kind of hardcore roasted some stuff, so sorry about that. The next big complaint I have is the fridging of Layla Ibarra. I will say it's weird because actually when I first saw it, I thought, oh great, I'm glad that they're going this dark. The introduction of Wheel of Time is, I mean, even the whole book is quite friendly. It's nice, and even though there are some darker elements, it does stay quite PG. So I was glad that they went dark, and that they would bring in the darker tone that comes in the later books earlier on, so that it wouldn't be such a jarring transition as we move through seasons quicker than we can move through a book that can show gradual change better than a show. But then when I watched it again, I don't know, man. I'm already exhausted.
I'm tired.
Thinking about how we're going to have to deal with Perrin never getting over this. Because, I think Nablus said it would have been better if they did Master Luhan, and I agree, because if it was Master Luhan, yes, he would always bear that guilt, but I do think in some ways he would be able to move past, because it wouldn't be his wife with either his possibly unborn child or his wife that just had a miscarriage. It really actually harkens back to me during the slog, the moment that Fail is captured, that feeling of, oh, God, because you just have to, now you know you're going to have to wait until she recapture her before there's any peace, you know, and part of the slog for me was difficult, not because I don't like Fael or Perrin, because actually I might get murdered for this. I actually don't mind Fael. Whoop! Whoop! But I remember that slog being so hard because it was like, you know, he's so angsty the whole time, and he's so boring in his mopiness, and it's like, now I'm gonna have to deal with him and his dead wife for like 8 seasons, because you're never gonna get past that sort of thing. My only hope for this is that it isn't as simple as we think it is right now. I really hope they fix it, or they have a plan for it, because right now it is just a rolling as fridging, and then also I don't want Perrin to only get to be angsty for 8 seasons, because to me this isn't something you get over. The last 2 things I've got are the lighting in the winter night scene with Moiraine and her weaves. It doesn't really work for me. I think it just looks too generic. It looks, and it also doesn't look natural. I think that's the biggest problem for me with the weaves that we have right now. People have mentioned they could be colored, which I think even that would help a little bit. But to me, weaves are meant to be natural. And right now, even the sound effects make them sound quite otherworldly and almost alien. I just think it was weird how the light was covering her entire body when there's streams of light. It would have been better to have kind of more direct, sharp light, hard light, where it hits her, instead of kind of a bounce. But that's just personal opinion. Other thing is, I really wish they did is this Tam moment with the sword, though, because in the books, it is such a grounding moment for the entire series when he gives him that sword, that I'm really hesitant at the idea that they didn't think it was important to do that, because way later on down the line, when Rand has decided not to destroy the entire world, Min kind of asks him why. He says, because I was raised better. And that moment in the books is so freaking awesome. And it's not that they can't still do that line, they can't still capture that. But there's something about Tam giving him that sword and, you know, opening the journey for Rand that makes you feel like Rand is going from that place with his father within him. Like, I think what happens with not being able to have that moment with him and the sword, we don't associate that sword with Tam like we should. Yeah. So those are my don't love. My theory is that it's definitely meant to be longer. That it's definitely meant to at least be an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Well, there was something said once somewhere, and maybe somebody in the comments can say, that Rafe wanted the first episode to be 2 hours and asked the production if they could, and Amazon said no. And I wonder if that was asked after they filmed, which is bizarre. Rosamund on the blue carpet mentioned something about how that first sequence was refilmed with her and getting ready and dressed, which feels that way because it's so rushed. That would explain the pacing, because the first episode, everyone has kind of said it, but is super fast. Like, just scene. Sorry, I'm really weird. I don't know what to tell you. It would make a lot of sense, because I think first, Layla, maybe we would understand why she's being so angsty, unless that's something they want to tell us later on. I think the Leandrin scene would probably be a series of scenes of them capturing channelers, so that we could understand the quest for Moraine has been going on for a while. Especially like the space between between Rand and Tam's farm and the city would be more clear. Also, like, are we gonna get Egwene coming out of the water? Like, I really hope so, because that was such a cool shot. I mean, especially watching non-book readers see that in the trailer, they really loved that, and I really hope we get that back. If it is true that there was a 2-hour version, I do hope that, like, once the show really picks up, it's already doing pretty well, that at the end of the season that they release the 2-hour one, or maybe they won't do that until the entire thing is over. Usually that's what happens, but, you know, it seems pretty clear to me that they've cut down a lot, and that there was meant to be a good bit more that we didn't get. Another theory I have is that the dragon's fane that is of the dead sheep and stuff that Lan comes upon when he's searching for the eyeless was made by Padan Fane. That was how he called the Fade. Yeah, so those are kind of my theories and ideas about the whole episode. I think it was a really strong first showing, and I had a really awesome time watching it. Let me know what you think of this video. It's clearly my first time.
That's what she said. That's what she said.
Let me know how I can improve. I don't know. I'm a newbie. I just want to know what you think. I just want to hear what you think. And in the immortal words of Jamie Lee Curtis from the classic film Freaky Friday, make good choices.
Make good choices!
Or don't, you know, I'm not your mom. Oh my god, I'm tired.